All right, it's that time, folks. It's time for the return of EUphoria, the podcast about all things EU LCS. I'm your host, Daniel Drakos, joined as always by Martin Deficio Lunga. This week, we want to talk EU Masters and the amateur scene, as well as looking into kind of how people find new talent, what Europe looks like, and setting some expectations for MSI and, of course, our representatives at MSI Fnatic. To do this, we have two special guests. First, it's the man behind the madness, the conductor of chaos, coach of the Unicorns of Love. It is Sheepy. Welcome, Sheepy.
Hello.
Nice. Love it. Second is...
Great intro.
I love it. Right?
Returning to the show is a man of many talents, most of them related to fashion. Call him an outcast because he's fresh, he's clean. It's YamatoCannon.
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Where's the welcome? I didn't get a welcome.
Welcome,
no, and you know, he
YamatoCannon.
scripted his entire intro.
I did.
He's actually reading it right now. I can tell you what the next thing is.
No,
Hey guys, best stories from your off-season ? Look,
the issue was we never scripted it, and then you would always flame me when we came on. You'd be like, wow, this time you said, ladies and gentlemen, what are you, a nerd presenting? You every time you flame me.
I've never said that.
You have.
Also, I think it's very rude you start the show by saying Yamato only has one talent, which is looking good. He's a professional coach.
Look, I don't care if the man is like 100 of his talents are coaching. That's great. That's 100 talents in coaching. Good job. But like 500 of them are picking out flower pattern shirts to look baller on stage. I'm not saying that he doesn't have coaching talent. I'm just saying there's a lot of fashion talents. But as you noted, next line in the script, for those of you keeping up, yeah, let's talk about the offseason. Like, what have you guys been up to? What are your, I was going to get to best stories. I was going to try to say, like, a little more casually than that. Get
Oh, I
involved.
thought we were supposed to just keep reading.
No.
Should I answer
Dude,
this?
read the script.
The script.
Read the
answers,
script.
right?
What?
Man,
This is
I
your
had
line.
a great time. I was in EU
I missed
Masters.
Deficio and Draco.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I went to EU Masters, and otherwise I was just, working actually with the guys as well, like since 2 weeks already. So we're back in the start quite early.
Anything else you might have been doing that we may have heard about?
Have you been speaking into a microphone by any
for any
chance?
other purpose?
For
Well,
anything?
I had this guy, Trevor, good friend of mine, Quickshot, yes. And he was like inviting me over to EU Masters, and he actually told me that I could cast, so I was like, okay, alongside Quickshot might be really interesting. And
Cool.
You mentioned EU Masters. There's the other thing that you're doing, though, that we're trying to get you to talk about that we think is
involved
cool.
a microphone.
Talk about it.
Dubbing? Is dubbing a movie?
You're dubbing a movie.
You were dubbing a movie.
Which
Dabbing.
movie? Tell the people.
We're
I thought you said
dabbing in the
dabbing
movie.
first.
I love it.
I'm addicted. I have a
dabbing on
problem.
I tried to fix it, but it's not working. Yeah, I was actually invited by 20th Century Fox to speak in Deadpool 2 in German with Exile.
Ooh.
Yes, I don't know the opening. Damn, I should have prepared the opening speech. Like, go guys, watch it. It's opening in the blah blah blah. and the movies.
Promoting the movie.
Damn.
Hey guys, don't watch it in English. You'd never want to do that
Yes.
here in Germany.
That's the problem.
Listen to the German dub.
But the story behind it is awesome because we got like the job over over like 3 different corners, and I go to the dubbing studio, and I was like, okay, this is pretty easy because I'm super self-confident and a little bit cocky in my attitude towards something. So I'm going in there with Exa and Exa as well. Like, how hard can it be? We're talking all the time, and then we started with like a very big role, and we started voicing everything, and with a bigger role, and we just butchered it, like absolutely butchered it. It was terrible. It was really terrible. So basically, from like a really long sentence, we went to a guy off screen that's just like, yes sir, everything all right, and we're like, that's it.
Really?
That's the best we could do.
No, you got
no
demoted?
shit. Yes, it was.
you could have been
so
German
terrible.
Ryan Reynolds.
I could have been. I could have. But now they cut that out as well from the movie. So yeah. You have to watch the movie, of course, to figure out
But you're
who
still
I am.
gonna be in it.
I'm still,
your voice will
because
be in
then
it
I had to
somewhere.
go again because they cut out the scene where I was actually in.
Killed the scene.
So they were like, okay, we have to record something else, and I was like, probably it's too good, and they're like, that doesn't fit in the
Oh yeah, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
that's pretty bad.
Wait, so what's your line now?
I can't say that.
Oh, you can't tell us.
No, because apparently it's part of the promotional stuff and so on. Oh.
Yamato, you ever been part of Swedish dubbing?
Actually,
of a
did you
movie?
do any dubbing? I heard that you want to do a kinder book.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a voiceover for what's it, children's book?
Yeah.
Kinder's book. You threw me off. I was thinking Kinder eggs. I was like,
Yeah, Kinder chocolate.
no, I'm gonna do a voiceover for a book, but that's just me on YouTube. That's not a fancy ass studio like Mr. Sheepy over here.
Shit.
I can't drop the
Studio
idea.
is so fancy.
Please, I want you to have one YouTube channel for everything you do, and I want it to be like half like critical League of Legends VOD. He's like, this guy is awful, and then like the next video is like, good night, sweet moon.
I don't know if I want to be branded like something like that. You know, I can't drop the idea because we said dab. I'm thinking dabbing studio still in my head. And I have
You
no
go
idea
there
what
and
that
then
is.
it's like
Professional
50.
dabbing
It's
studio.
a mocap.
Put your heart into it.
You want to know
What
where
are
they
you
make
doing?
Fortnite emotes? It's that studio in Germany where Sheepy's dabbing.
Put the
I
arms
gotta say
straighter.
though, man, that story was great.
Yes.
You know, because I saw the article and the tweets, and I was like, whoa, okay. And at first, I was like, for sure, this is just like a tiny little role. You know, him and Exile just have like one line to say in the background before you get killed or something.
I mean, we could have had bigger ones, but
Exactly. The fact it could have been a huge one is actually insane. Imagine if you had one of the main roles
Yes.
in that movie.
I know. Just imagine you're like invited to Worlds and you know you butchered on your first day and they're like, that's it. Thank you so much. You know.
I really want to thank you for coming
We
out.
call you again, but you don't have my phone number. You know, this
You
kind of
pull the
stuff.
tabe, and then we have to be like, oh, okay.
All right. Next topic. This is important. This is one that actually Deficio randomly wrote in and snuck past me, but I will now read off the script.
There you go.
All right, there you go. How important is it to look good as a coach? And follow-up question, also from Deficio.
Wait, let's keep it with the first question.
Okay, all right.
First question first.
How important is it to look good on stage?
Yamato.
Well, for me, it's just fun. I think for me, it's about look good, feel good. You know,
I agree.
I think if you dress well, you're confident, and then you can kind of transcribe that through what you dress to others. And I think as a coach, you have to be the person that people turn to. And I think that's a small part of that. And small things add up to something big, and that's my idea of it.
That's there's a lot more logic behind
Yeah,
that.
that was
than I
that a lot.
expected.
Yeah, that was
He was like,
a
this-
surprisingly succinct answer.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna be like, well, it started as a child, and I learned that I loved flowers, and not seeing flowers in the studio, it brought me sadness.
I was born with a tie
What do you mean
on.
flower?
we should really like cue
You don't
over
like
like some
flower patterns?
violin.
I don't though. That's the thing. Like if you zoom in, like for example that famous like yellow black shirt.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you zoom in, you can see like small Indian people and frogs. That's how deep the shirts go.
Oh, it's not even flowers. I bought a flower shirt the other day, and I almost sent you a picture, Drakos, because it's the kind of stuff you normally wear. But I fell in love with it. I was just like, this is a great shirt. And obviously,
shirts for summer.
You have to
Yeah.
be bold, like these birds. You know, when you like look.
oh, this
pictures.
is flowers, not birds.
And so my next question is, Sheepy, you're usually wearing like the classic black with like the pink unicorns tie. Like, what's the next level for Sheepy fashion? Is it like an all pink suit?
Yes, it's definitely that. I have full pink suit, pink tie,
Do you have it already?
everything Unicorns of Love branded, like basically huge, you know, printed on Unicorns of Love logo on the back. I think that's the next level.
That feels a little more mascot-y than coachy, though. Are you going to both be mascot and coach?
I mean, I live by the trend feels good. So if it feels good, it doesn't have to necessarily look as good as it feels, you know?
All right.
You might have to work a little bit on that
just
one.
take it.
Just,
Okay.
All right. We're gonna now follow-up question. I think you should ask Deficio since this is your baby here.
Yeah, so it's something I thought about that some of the coaches are able to do, which we don't see on the broadcast right now, is how important is a great mustache?
That's true.
And do we need more in the EU LCS? Is that what's keeping us from beating the Koreans?
This is when you ask it, it feels almost personal. You can't grow facial, can you? Deficio?
That's kind of the problem here, which prompted this question, because I'm sitting with 3 people here who can actually get a pretty decent mustache. Sheepy, you've already been showing one.
Man, I've been rocking a mustache since like 1.5 years or something like this. But it's really difficult as well because my facial hair, you know, doesn't want in the beginning, but then you just have to
You force it
rely
out,
on-
you
yeah,
push.
you just push.
It's your problem.
I rely
Deficio.
on-
You didn't believe enough.
But
More than medicine.
is it a power thing for you, or?
Of course, if you have somebody with a huge mustache.
All right. Here's the question. As dudes who can grow mustaches, now, we have a lot of bets on the show. This is not a bet for this show. But in the future, next season LCS, how willing are you guys as guests? We'll poll people as we go in the future to like do something ridiculous with your facial hair as part of a bet.
I mean,
Depends on how offensive.
yeah, exactly.
I'm
in.
less historical figures, more like Ron Jeremy.
Abraham Lincoln.
Boy, I like this Ron Jeremy we use. Just like with Jizuka.
I mean, that's like that's a quintessential, like, ridiculous.
Have you ever had just a mustache, Yamato?
No.
No, always kept the rest of the facial hair?
I think it's...
I can't
the
do
beard
that.
came first.
Accidentally
There's just
shaved.
enough growth in this area.
Oh, so you're kind of forced to do the mustache style.
Yeah, I basically. But you have it even easier.
Yeah, because you can't grow anything, so you're good.
I can grow tiny pupes on my face that never turns into a real beard.
It's a good look. I've seen it.
Razors are expensive, you know, so good for you.
I can buy real cheap ones, yeah. But I can never go to like a real barber and be like, hey, I need a fantastic shave, because he would just look at me and laugh at me. So I'm just like, I lose that part of my life.
You
It
kind
is
of want
amazing.
weird things in your life. Like, I have a good job, a career. You know, I'm like happy. I get to live in Denmark, but I can't feel what other men feel when they go to the barber shop.
It is important. You know, I'm going after the podcast to go, and the entire experience you feel. It's
See,
like,
that's what I mean.
you know,
Have you
it's
ever-
like going to for women. They go to the salon, they get their nails done, the makeup, and everything. But for guys, this is what it is for guys.
Have you ever been
get
at
full
the
shave?
at the barber shop, like where they
Yeah,
put
yeah.
you back? Yeah, it's amazing. You really have to go, Drakos.
I have this place. They're basically my uncles at this
Yeah,
point. You know,
yeah.
they speak Arabic only, no German, so I can connect with them, and they just like give you like the whole cologne. It burns on your face, and with the knife.
What if I go
smell.
with you and we go together and I can just be like, hey,
behind, not creepy
no, please just give me what he's getting, you know? They probably wouldn't do that.
They would.
They would.
Anything for money, you know. That's
Capitalism, yay.
Oh, man. But do we agree that the broadcasts actually do need a proper mustache?
I think that the beard mustache is like underrepresented. I think you guys needed to. I think your beard was like at some point amazing,
Thank you.
and it's really really hard to grow like at some point.
Yeah, now it's garbage.
I know.
And then now it's more like-
I trimmed it down a bunch
Yes.
because it was getting out of control.
But then we had Pyra. He did sport their...
Pirate did.
Oh yeah, you
He
guys.
tried to
Alright,
build a
I
real...
feel like we're tunneling on mustaches, but you know
that
what?
point.
As
The
this has, I know it's true.
in the script.
We're going deep.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. So, but before we transition to our next topic of the day, I do want to say if you're a listener and you have a dope mustache, send us your dope mustache pics.
Hashtag
Or
dope mustache.
Photoshop us
Or
with real
or
big
Photoshop
mustaches,
someone you
especially
think
me.
should have a mustache with a mustache. You know. I don't know. Maybe Vetty needs a really big mustache.
Maybe.
Just imagine.
Shocks needs a mustache. I don't know, man. Get creative. Pick who you want. I can't think of what player needs it.
That is would look like a hamburger now. with a mustache. I want to see that.
So this past Sunday, EU Masters finished up the finals between Origin and IHG. 3-0 for Origin. Congrats to them taking it, smurfing in a regional tournament. Good job, guys.
It was a lot harder.
I say smurfing because, you know, they all had a lot of competitive experience, but you're right. It was not exactly the cleanest wins of all time that you'd expect from the star-studded roster that was put together.
Yeah, they could have been knocked out multiple times. There's a bit of tiebreak even to get past the main group stage. So there was so first of all, very good tournament. I actually didn't really 100% know what to expect going into the tournament in terms of the level and the community interest and that kind of stuff. But obviously, one thing was Origin being there with his team made a lot of people wanna watch Masters for sure, just for Origin. But I think even before in the planes, we started seeing decent amount of people talking about it, watching, and just following over the last few weeks, some of the players that, you know, I normally don't see a lot of because I don't get to watch all the different national leagues all the time, was really cool because you get like a connection during this tournament because it runs over multiple weeks where you just want to follow specific players and teams. And that was a very successful thing. And I'm a big fan of a couple of new players now that I definitely want to keep following.
Yeah, same. I mean, I was over there, right? And
I muted there, so I didn't watch the broadcast properly.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want to.
But you were tweeting like, "Oh, Sheepy is there." Probably like, guys, time to mute.
Please, guys.
Exactly.
Where's YamatoCannon?
He does know what he's saying.
Where's YamatoCannon?
Where's the coach when we need him? Yeah, but I was over there and I thought exactly the same because there are like some standout players in the EM that played like very aggressive, very, exciting overall. So there was like Click Tech and also Tinks from Gamers Origin. I think was really, really interesting to watch.
Good old Tinks, Danish, by the way. Just adding that in there. YamatoCannon, do you watch any EU Masters?
Very little, to be honest. I usually, when I do my scouting for players, is usually during the time where I need players. I'm very satisfied with mine at the time. And one thing that I can say, I don't want to give too much indications of players because I'm looking into it to potentially for our academy team. There's something we've had now for, what is it? It's 5 months, 4 months. And I think teams all over the world have shown that academy teams are very powerful, and we've used it a lot, and it's something that we're looking to upgrade on all the time. I like talented young players. I like working with them the most out of anything most of the time because you have like these moments of brilliance. I think that's something that I saw frequently when I looked at the matches where people were like, "Oh, you need to look at this team, Click Tech and whatever," and you could see moments of brilliance. And I think that to me is what defines what you can make of a player, and that was interesting from my perspective for the future in terms of my academy team.
I mean, it's exciting, right, to have all this footage on these players that's like so centrally located, and since there are so many people playing in the tournament, it's a lot easier to tell who actually is the best of the best, right? Because a lot of these guys are like, pub stomping their own smaller regional tournaments, and then coming into this tournament, at least like the quality of the teams is going to be a little bit higher because they're filtered a little bit more. And it generally, it feels to me like it gives a pretty good impression of where people are at. I mean, I know it's not quite LCS level, but it did feel like you could see, like you could actually see what a player's skill was versus if they're playing, it's a low enough down tournament, right? If it's a small enough tournament in terms of who's participating and they're pub stomping, like,
you don't really learn a lot.
You don't really learn a lot watching it because they're just, they're winning a lane they shouldn't win, and they're, invading. It doesn't matter because there's 3 levels up and they can kill people, right?
Yeah, and I mean, just also more tournaments is great. A European-only tournament for all these different teams from around Europe is exactly what I think we need in our ecosystem, because obviously the national leagues are growing. Adding that in, the fact that EU Masters was something people took very serious also gives you another thing that you can play towards as a national league team, and also a tournament that we can all follow as fans. So it was just very successful, which was good. And people have also been crying for ways for new casters to show themselves on a big stage. Sheepy being one of them in this case. EU Masters.
They were dying for it.
Yeah, but EU Masters had a lot of games to cast. A lot of different people were involved. We had players, we had coaches, we had amateur casters showing up, and it was cool overall to see all this new talent both on the Rift but also on the broadcast. Because I gotta say, I know I was making fun of you before, Sheepy, but I did quite enjoy your casting.
There you go.
I think also, I'm gonna let you have your moment.
Give me. Yeah, at least at the.
All right, pay me that €50.
Yeah, here you go. It's like no video,
I think in terms of players, usually when organizations and teams or whoever scouts players, there's always question marks. How will they perform in tournaments? How will they perform in team environment? Having an opportunity for as many players as possible to showcase what they're capable of in a team environment, and also in an environment where it's competitive, there's stress, there's nerves. I think that's very, very important. And I think as long as you have these amateur tournaments, that's what it is in football, right? Like you have these little leagues, you have these smaller leagues, and eventually you reach the top, and that's where all the scouting happens. Exactly. You got these guys from Real Madrid sitting there, sitting in their trench coats. I don't know how it is. I'm not. I'm just looking.
I guess
writing down.
That's the dress code.
That's the image.
I saw like Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, little hat on, looking through a newspaper at these guys.
But obviously, with the Spanish league and also in France, all the different tournaments being pretty advanced now, there's a lot of footage already for those guys, but it's all the other teams that you don't get to watch a lot of. Like, if you want to watch a Nordic team play, there's like 1 or 2 small tournaments that you most likely will never get to watch in the first place, and the level might not be very high. So it's really difficult to see if these players are actually good enough. And then when they get to play the other teams, especially like the Spanish ones and Origin in this case, it's you get a really cool idea of like how good can they actually be.
Yeah, and I think also it just gives different storylines, right? In LCS you have mainly, you know, the best of the best like put together in a team, but in the national leagues you really have, you know, for example, Illumina Gaming, who was like full Polish squad, that they made it so far as an absolute upset story. Same as like ClickTake from the Balkans, that they made it so far is super interesting as well. And we all expected like Spain or France to, you know, to fight for the top, and which kind of also happened.
What about Germany?
Germany, I had no hope.
Picked up
We went like
one
1-7
win.
or something.
Yeah, no, it was
Right?
really bad.
It was like, yeah, we're not that advanced yet, but I'm sure, you know, we'll come slowly and then start taking over the league in like a year or two. Hopefully.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I don't buy that one.
Yeah,
I think I'm
You can't just sell out an entire country based
Yeah,
on
you're like,
one
I
tournament.
don't like Germany.
no, I'm just saying.
I've moved out. I don't
Yeah.
have to be scared.
I'd put
anymore.
my money right
I just
now
live here.
on either a team from Spain or France to take it next time.
We're gonna see out. So,
Open challenge.
Vitality Academy.
Hey, there you go.
so the thing I want to talk about is that this, of course, came in kind of in replacement of the Challenger series, right? As like and taken it out, and it's obviously it's just not an ongoing league. It's these one of kind of big tournaments that are, you know, playing in from a lot of different angles. How do we feel like it did as a replacement for Challenger? From your guys' perspective as team coach who maybe used to watch Challenger for new players or who, you know, have played in Challenger to qualify up to LCS. How do you feel it did?
I think it was really, really great tournament overall. Like there was a lot of different talent. We saw, I mean, it was such a different flavor to LCS as well. With if you're somebody who's not actively following so much, this is like something very special where you, if you're coming from Germany, if you're coming from France, from Spain, and you really want to see how is your nation represented compared to everybody else, like really this European feeling, then you had it all there. I think players played unbelievably interesting and exciting. I didn't expect that personally. Because I'm not following so much, for example, the French league or, you know, or the German league in this case, or Balkan or Polish, and then suddenly this is the reason that you're actually watching those leagues and you're finding out new stuff. So I think it shifted a lot of focus, like from Challenger Series, which was like LCS light, right, very light.
Discount LCS.
Discount LCS exactly to something of their own, and that's super
That's true.
refreshing.
Yeah, I think the format was just really, really good. I think the fact that there were so many teams, so many players, I think that definitely supported. The amount of games the teams played was also very similar to Challenger Series. The amount of like games they get to play there was really, really low. So I think that part of it doesn't matter. I think the format is more easy to digest because it's over a smaller period of time. I think.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest point is once again you get like every corner of Europe into one place, and you get to test everyone truly. Because I think teams like ClickTech maybe wouldn't have the opportunity to go into Challenger Series, and I think that's the biggest point to support it.
So is it better when it comes to like scouting that it's a tournament instead of a league setup? Because obviously it's a 3-week tournament in this case here, instead of the Challenger Series, which was effectively just running next to the LCS as a normal league into a playoff. Is it better that it's like a high-stake tournament that you're watching instead?
Well, I think it's hard to say. Like Challenger Series was also very high stake, like relegation and promotion.
Oh yeah, so I just meant like a tournament instead of a league setup, where every game is like.
I guess
you
you
get
can feel
knocked
the impact a bit more when you play like a tournament setting, but it's hard for me to judge because in the end, like the logical part of me tells me that it's the same, you know, regardless if it's a league or if it's a tournament,
Right.
the outcome is the same. There's a playoff bracket, but I think it's more about the knockout stage is also the same, so it's hard for me to judge from my perspective at least.
Is there anything different when it's like a tournament versus the league format in terms of how you look at player development? Because presumably like in a league, if they're playing one match a week, right, and it's over 6 weeks, you can see how a player improves over time. You can see how they get better. Now in a shorter term format, obviously you might not see as much improvement, but when you're scouting, is that even something that you would look at, like how a player improves over time? Or are you just looking for where they're at currently, knowing that maybe you can improve them?
So when we're looking at players, there's like this burst of brilliance or moments of brilliance. There's obviously a lot of different factors as well, how they're performing. And European Masters was interesting because and like the high stakes setting and how everyone was set up and how you have to prepare for the next matches towards teams that you're generally not facing, right? It's like a different flavor as if you're playing in a league where you know everybody and then you're just playing out kind of the finals of your own nation, right? So I think it's very exciting because all the players and different trends from different regions are clashing together. That's it's like the reason we are watching Worlds as well, right? We want to see how the aggressive style from China is kind of against the control style from Korea, and then there's Europe and NA. And
we just do stuff.
So we do stuff. We have our own styles as well. How they're clashing against each other, and that makes obviously for more interesting and more informative gameplay from the player. So, and then the winners of each region, like for example now with Origin winning, this is definitely the Spanish league would be some place where LCS coaches would look out to pick up players because it's just the strongest nationality right now league-wise, and Mad Lions have been performing well as well. So you would right now just from league-wise, but because Illumina Gaming went so far as well, maybe in the future, if I'm looking for players or if anyone is looking for players,
there's that jungler, you might know him.
/ top laner / whatever he plays at the moment, right?
I wanted to also give my input because I understand the question a bit different in terms of how I would prepare for a tournament and a league system differently. I think when you go into a tournament, you find yourself in a position where there are some problems you don't have enough time to solve. So you put yourself in a position where you create band-aid solution. I think the best abstract example I have of that was when I did my Worlds run with Splice. We came into playoffs. We were probably one of the best, if not the best, lane swap team. And then it was just completely gutted. So we came into playoffs and we had to find other ways to find success. And it became, we created band-aid solutions, so to speak. We didn't play optimally, but we found ways to figure it out. We played Malzahar and Kassadin in mid. We scaled through mid. We had problems playing through mid, and Senkux fell behind. But usually with the Kassadin and Malzahar, he scaled into the game. So we found band-aid solutions, and that's something that you have to do if to gain like short-term victories. While, for example, in the regular season for Vitality, something that I tried to do from the beginning was to play in a way that is very, very risky and very rewarding, but at the same time you do a couple of mistakes and the game is over. And that's something that I wanted to do from the get-go, even though I knew we would probably have had more losses than wins. But at the end, I think the outcome was better coming into the playoff setting, because as long as we reach that point, it's fine. So I think that's the big difference that I would point out. And something that I wanted to add to Sheepy's point, in regards to what these teams that are sent from their specific region, when it's Fnatic from Europe, something that is important to highlight is that this team is a product of that region, because they are practicing against the other teams, they're learning from those teams, they're basically taking the spirit and soul of that entire region, because that's what it is. Fnatic is practicing against us the entire split, so they are taking a part of us into MSI, and I think that's the same, and that's the beauty of also European Masters, because they are bringing the soul and the heart of every region into it.
That's very poetic. I like it. I'd probably say it is influence, because I think people would. I think it's very serious, Yamato. You've made it sound very like this beautiful thing,
soul.
And it's not that it's not a beautiful thing. It just feels so grandiose, I think. But I'm curious. You brought up rather your academy team, or Vitality's academy team earlier. Now, is this something that you see becoming more commonplace in the future for LCS teams? Because, I mean, what is the value, I guess, that you get out of this? Because to me, I mean, I can understand it if this is a team you scrim against, but I'm just not sure what the full picture is for what you actually get out of an academy team as an LCS team with a secondary team. Okay,
so from my perspective, it's all about the small things, and I think an academy team can be small and also big, because I think it's an asset for sure. So regardless if in any way I can improve the team, I will take it no matter what. So in terms of academy team and how it improves, it gives me an opportunity to have 5 rookies or 5 players that I can watch grow and turn into something even better. So in our case, we had UK and Dreams, which they were in one split in LCS. They played for a long time, and we had three rookies, so to speak. And that was a big asset for us because I can always look to their growth and look at how they're performing. I can look at players on solo queue and just put them in a situation. And I also had the opportunity to bring him into the gaming house. If we had an issue with a specific role, we can also have like a different eye and a different opinion in that scenario. At the same time, the biggest reason why I wanted to do it was we are reaching this point where we're playing best of ones. In best of ones, strategies that you don't want to reveal to anyone, they become very relevant. Last split, what we did a lot was scrimming teams that are outside of EULCS just for this purpose. We had a lot of trust established with some of the other teams in other regions, and we were able to practice things we didn't want to reveal to anyone because things trickle down very fast. If you show a strategy to one team, all of a sudden he screams to the other team, and then every team knows it, and then you're facing it in the LCS when you were the one inventing it, and you're sitting there like, oh, well, blows, you know? So I think the aspect of hiding something is fantastic. And I think the most significant supporter of this is what Afrika did over in LCK. They had 10 players, they swapped around a lot, and I think this is something that a lot of the coaches feared, because this is something that they said in interviews as well, that no one knew what they practice, and that is something that is hard to prepare against.
Now, in the LCK, we do see subs being used a lot more on stage. Obviously, with BO3 in Europe last year, we didn't get to see it a whole lot. BO1 this year probably makes it even harder. Like, is that the main reason we don't see European teams actually put their academy player or their sub player on stage? Because we typically just see the same 5 players all split long.
I think it's a question of, like over in LCK, I think the player pool, like if you pick a player from top 10 challenger, then you know that you're going to get a quality player that is going to have no communication issues over in LCK, and the culture is also supporting of the idea of a team structure and respect. And I think that helps a lot. It's easy for them to just pick out players and just swap them out because there's this threat behind it. But I think it's something that will come with time. We have these EU Masters in a couple of years. I'm pretty sure the academy teams will be very stacked, because I think that's what EU Masters is. I think every player is just putting a sign on themselves. Pick me, I want to go to LCS. You know, I think that's what it is in the end. And I think the more and more we have these tournaments, the more we have showcases of players, I think the academy teams will be stacked, and we will reach a point where switches will happen mid-season, or maybe during like a specific week, or we want to play against this team, we need this, and whatever. I think it's just a question of quality of players.
I think for me it's relatively hard because we don't really have substitute we are using. I really do support the idea. I think also it's something I would like to do. I think, you know, more talent, more brains to work with, more experiences to have and to learn from. From my side, it's just relatively hard how to manage that in our environment. You know, where should they sleep? Where do we build the office space for that? So everything works out together well. Who am I actually taking, and who will play in scrims? Do we only play the team that we are choosing from? You know, like there's a lot of restrictions and regulations, especially, and also it needs to be like cost versus effect, where it's like sometimes not sensible, right, to take people that you actually don't think you will use at all and build them up, you know.
Because right now, so Vitality's set up, you guys have Unlimited as your coach for the academy team. There's the 5 players. Are they in a gaming house, or are they playing online most of the time?
Well, it comes and goes. We have I'm not going to say that I have the most accurate information, but we have boot camps, we have facilities where when it's sensible for them to boot camp, they are doing that. We had a gaming house during one period. I think also they're in our gaming house at the time, at the current time. And I think it was just a question of changing. And it was something that was very, very in line with the idea of EU Masters coming into the picture, because that's important in terms of cost and, of course, what was the second word used? Cost and... Efficiency, yeah, cost and efficiency. That sounds nice. Okay. I'm gonna take that, make it mine. cost and efficiency. So we wanted to send a team into EU Masters. We didn't do that. The team didn't play that well. We got 4th place in the French league, so obviously didn't deserve to go. No chance. So there was an idea behind it past my own ideas, right?
Right.
So it was like plus.
Yeah, and that's what basically you're saying for Unicorns of Love right now. It's hard to 100% decide, is it worth it to sign 5 academy players, an academy coach, and then find somewhere for them to practice from time to time, and it's just not worth it, or potentially not worth it?
What I would like to have is like a huge office building or something like this. Then, you know, everybody can have, you know, they sleep wherever, you know, like if they want to have an apartment for themselves, they take an apartment for themselves. Like everyone has like different thought, and then I would like to oversee. Like it would be great to have like 2 assistant coaches to just like micromanage the team, and then macromanage. We have like meetings or stuffing. You know, there's like I really do think there's benefit in this, like huge benefit as well. But right now it's just not a point where, you know, where we want to do this as an organization. And on the flip side, how effective is it as well? I think this is more for like long term, like probably something that bears fruit in like 2 or 3 years. Definitely, like if I talk about it, I already get very excited about it, but with the people I'm having right now as well as the team, I still focus a lot about improving myself as well, because I'm, you know, I think I'm very experienced in what I'm doing. I think we're like actually one of the oldest coaches in the league, right?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
We've been around since forever, yeah.
So yeah, we're like
Season 4 or 5?
LCS was built on our backs.
Well, when coaches came into the picture, was it season 5, yeah?
That was about Season 5.
We
I
won the
think
finals,
so.
the first split. I got relegated with Meet Makers. What a shit show.
Hey, at least you were in the LCS.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. When
You played with Rocket after.
Yeah,
Coach Rocket.
I went into Rocket. That's a fun story, actually, how I got the job. Because they didn't trust me, you know? And I was like, let me come into your office space. I want to try it right now. I'm just going to come into your house and I'm going to scrim with you guys. He was like, I don't know. I was like, give me the address right now. And then Fly sent me address. I went there. And then like, okay, after the scrims, they're like, we need to have a conversation, maybe 10 minutes. And then took them 30 seconds, like, come in here, you got the job.
That'd be a lesson for all of you guys. If
this is really how it works. You have to be very obnoxious if you want the job.
ask for the address.
Just like, where are you?
Jump
Where are
into
you
the
living?
scrim and just start yelling at the players.
Wait, this is the same story for Roma. Like, Roma was basically, you know, working before at Razer, which we are, you know, contracted with. And I don't know exactly how, you know, back in the day it was Wild West. So you were just like, whatever, esports. So he was like basically saying, I think your team is exciting. I really want to be part of it. You guys do whatever you want and you're cool and you're blah, 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 blah. So he just puts the honey around. I don't know if this is a saying. I said it to Trevor if I could say that on air, and he said that's not a saying. But basically he was very nice, right?
He puts the honey on himself?
No, it's like putting honey around the mouth. Wait, don't you know that?
To make him more attractive.
You smear honey around the mouth. It means like you make something...
Can you say it in German?
Honig den Mund schmieren.
Okay.
Okay, whatever.
It sounds dirty in German.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, okay.
I don't want to know.
Back to the point.
You went for the honey. You went for the honey.
I went full honey, and then he basically said, okay, give me your you know where you live, and I come over, and I'll be there tomorrow. And I'm like, tomorrow? But I was also young, so at this point I was just like, I had no authority. So if he's like, okay, I'm like,
okay,
whatever. And he's like, flew over the next day from France, and then he had to go to Hamburg afterwards. So we had like an hour, and he came in the pink onesie, right?
Oh man.
So he's like, I want to apply for the management job and talk with sponsors,
Pink onesie,
and basically
honey.
pink onesie. And I opened the door, and at this point I was just like, I can't.
You're like, I didn't order a stripper. What is this guy doing here?
I can't say no to him,
Call
you know?
it safely a risky decision, even in esports. Hey, guy in pink onesie who wants to be the manager.
I could.
Sure. That works great for us. Do you also have a
Maybe
suit?
out of
No, that's fine. Do you have more than one onesie? Okay, we can work with that.
I would like to dance on stage and wear nothing. I'm like, all right. No, but I was afraid at this point to say no. Really.
I mean, he just showed up at your house.
He knows where I live.
Yeah, he's very fit. He could probably beat you
They
up.
probably thought the same for you there. Like, they know where he lives.
So it's interesting because we often get questions from people asking, "How do I get a job in esports?" And basically, from what we're learning here,
I don't think we should stop the trend of people.
just be really obnoxious and
Send
make sure.
follow-up emails.
Yeah.
Don't go to people's houses. Just send follow-up emails.
Only go if they actually give you the address and tell you.
If you
can show
if you
up.
find it on your own, please do not go.
Yeah, keep tweeting at Deficio. You know, this is how you
He'll
get a
leak
job.
it all eventually. He'll break, guys. You can get him. Just keep asking. He has all the info. Back on the subject of kind of building these teams and scouting talent, it's something we've been kind of talking about. But I'm curious specifically. Some names have already been brought up, but like who really stood out in this tournament, right? In terms of new young talent.
Yeah, Yamato.
Yeah, like I know one player. When I was recruiting for academy already, then I was looking at Mr. Self-Made Man. Of course, he was already during the time he was on the contract. He was a lot of shh, couldn't talk, and of course we didn't breach any rules, so we didn't talk.
Got it.
But I
Nice.
think this guy, I can.
He's the jungler for Mad Lions.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
adding that.
I can. I'm pretty certain he's going to be an LCS next split.
Oh, next split already.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he was one of the. Because I wrote in a few names on this scripted list here.
Tinks is good. I like Tinks.
Tinks was the he got on in the end.
Froggen
Yeah,
was,
so the first name I
was
put
pretty
on
nice.
He's good.
first was Froggen of like players
Players to watch.
who we would
New
love to
talents.
see in the EU LCS. Obviously, I think if we had to pick an MVP of the tournament, I think Froggen will probably get the votes of the entire tournament.
He's the grandpa of the rookies.
Yeah, he was definitely the oldest rookie, but he performed very well. I hope one day we get to see him on the big stage. Other names I put in, Sheepy, interested in hearing your opinion. We already had Yamato saying self-made, of course, which was good. I put in Nemesis, mid laner from Mad Lions, who I think was good. Then I put in Stefan, who was the jungler from ClickTech, who mainly at the start of the tournament, we were like, whoa, okay, this guy, crazy. And then it kind of fizzled out when ClickTech started losing a lot of games. Self-made, of course, in the jungle. Militia, the mid laner, also from ClickTech.
Also good.
Good start.
Yeah.
I put in Kickers, actually, as a question, because he was a little bit all over the place. But I kind of enjoyed watching him back in the jungle because he does a lot of crazy stuff. I'm not sure if it was good enough to be in the actual LCS just yet, but what do you think, Sheepy?
I mean, I think that he is a player with so much history, also won LCS at some point as well, right?
Yeah.
So, and he's now shown as well that he can maybe bring an inexperienced squad towards like the bigger stage and play in the final as well, right? So I do think that he's a really strong player and like a strong individual. I think also his mentality works out well. He works out as well, and yeah, I think generally he has had a good tournament towards the later stages. In the beginning, his Olaf was like 0-4 and people were like, what is he doing exactly?
Yeah, I remember that.
People were like,
oh my god, the first game he played.
The Kickers career path is one of the most interesting things in esports to me because I mean it's just he went Unicorns of Love, and he did good for a while, and then he with G2, right? And he
became a top laner out of nowhere.
He wasn't great for the longest time on that roster. It was like the Rammus top era, that brief period.
But towards the end, he
was actually really good. And then Expect came in.
Expect was there.
He was
playing
good.
really good.
Yeah.
And then he was one of the best.
I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, I remember he didn't want to play with a sub on the roster, right? And so he opted to leave.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing.
no, you basically put it.
Because like this
I
guy
play for G2 Esports, I can win the LCS, but I refuse to be with a sub.
which was weird. And now Expect has obviously grown into a really good top laner, great player all around.
Yeah.
But like it's such a weird path because he like had this top LCS spot and then opted out, didn't want to be a part of it. Fnatic Academy, Mysterious Monkeys, now down to Illuminar Gaming. I mean, Kikis has just been all over the place, man.
Expect is following him.
I didn't even think about that. Oh my god. You will get nothing, Kikis, and you'll like it.
Oh, David, leave him
Expect
alone.
takes
everything away. He's like, can I have the EU Masters start? No. I'll take that.
Expect's contract is over in Origin, right? He's gonna play in the Polish league. Winning the Polish league? Nah.
Not for you, Kikis, never again.
Oh, man.
Any other names for you, Sheepy, during the tournament that really stood out?
I think the junglers overall were pretty good. I think that was very exciting. We had some with self-made things, Stefan.
Yeah.
And I think generally also mid lane, militia It's not militia.
Militia,
It's militia, I think.
Oh, Militia.
Yeah, because when
I spelled it wrong.
no, but so many names are. There was also XD Smiley S60 or something like this,
Which is a great name.
which is like which.
That's
just
that's
if
a
have
name
to
if you
say
want as a
names,
caster.
Yes, if you have names, there was difficulties. But yeah, I think mid lane and jungle really were the standout roles in the entire tournament. I mean, also for Origin with Froggen and Insect, right? But yeah, if there's like any players that really showed themselves, it's I think Tinks, especially in the game that I was still casting or like watching as well. He was playing so aggressive with Graves and just in the enemy jungle, and then you have the total flip side where things just didn't work out.
Yeah, a little bit too much Graves.
Yeah, I don't know.
For
At a
me.
certain
You went
point, it was
like
like,
2-0,
guys,
and then I didn't
guys,
watch.
calm down.
Yeah, I sadly didn't watch those games. But I really have to rewatch because I was just like, they play so aggressive and they know what they're doing, and that was really. I mean,
Yeah.
it was really standout performance, but it just didn't go through.
Here's the deal for me. I kind of want to give people like a 4 players to watch. I picked 4. It's a random number. We can add more. But players to watch in this tournament because I think that I want people to get excited about some of these new names. I want them to know who like we thought were like the real standouts. Now, Froggen is on the list. He's a player that we want to see in EU LCS. Obviously, woo, Froggen played great. Probably MVP. It is without a doubt MVP of the tournament, right? Since he won the whole thing. Tinks is on the list. Self-made man. No, I think he just goes by self-made now.
Just self-made, yeah.
2018,
But do you guys think Tinks was top 4 in terms of like players to really?
Oh man, it's really difficult because there was just
Ice
a
Beast
polar.
was also good.
Ice Beast to top lane was pretty good as well. Whirlup top lane Ornn when he just rocked the Ignite was pretty.
Oh,
beast
when he
as
picked
well.
that Jackson, he won as well.
Dude,
I was like,
he won
will
like
it be, man?
two times solo kills. Yeah, I mean those players were all in the LCS, right? Like Whirlup and Froggen. So I'm not sure if this is like a fair pick.
I think
because they're not-
Nemesis.
Fnatic will be.
Yeah, there you go. I think Nemesis should be on the list. Also because I just generally think
You just like the name.
the name is great.
Yes.
But I think actually he's a good player who, like in Europe, if you watch EU Masters in general, like there was, as you highlighted, Sheepy, like a lot of mid laners. There were some of the games they stood out, like from ClickTech and now Nemesis. I think Larsen from NIP had some of the games where he also
Yeah. Also true mid lane Larsen when he played Rice was.
he stepped up big time. So there's actually a lot of names who we could see in the EU LCS in the future, and I guess that's kind of the whole thing about Europe and why EU Masters and national leagues are so good because we just have so much talent. I feel like every year we have a couple of new players who ends up being really good in the LCS, and we just keep producing more and more.
And the idea is also to lock down talent, right? Like if you see somebody is up and coming, is very very strong.
I mean, that's why you in the Masters, right? To scout talent as well. And now you're ready.
Obviously, I have like a list now. I infiltrated the system from the inside. I asked casters like, "Hey, what do you think?" And then write it down.
What am I hearing? UL, no academy team, looking for new players.
No.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
It
Drama.
would be as
Goodbye, guys.
On the EUphoria podcast.
title. That's the title.
Do you want to find these 4 players? Do you want to lock them in?
I just wrote down Nemesis, Tinks, Froggen, and Self-Made Man. Is that cool? Are we good with that?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm definitely not against that.
Give them some shout-outs. I think the players really deserve a lot of exposure.
We'll do it. Those will be our top 4. We'll make a sweet graphic to accompany this.
How about Forgiven?
He's in the military. He's not
Seeing as he's
eligible till
not
2020.
going to be available.
We'll get
But
back to
was
you in.
he?
We'll get back to you in 2 years.
Will he go to military? I remember when he did this.
He said
this
now that he's going.
this crying thing on stage, and then it just didn't happen.
Well, I think he managed to get it delayed to continue playing, but now I know he announced that now he's going, and he will be available again in 2020.
Always stay smart.
2020.
So
League is dead then. No, I'm
we got 1 more year left, guys.
kidding.
But
I'm
Can we get
kidding.
that on the
Clock is
record? The
ticking.
league is dead. Was that
Yeah.
Jacob? Bevy?
Forgiven. It could be good on Fortnite. Nah.
Random point on this whole league is dead that I really want to say is I keep seeing this on Reddit and I keep seeing
it's bullshit, man.
so many people jump into discussions and everyone is stating their opinions as facts. It's like,
it's Reddit.
I know that the player base is dropping in X region. I'm like,
Look,
please link me anything
clear
to
to you
back that up.
5 years ago, my queue time was 45 seconds, and now it's a minute. The game is dying, Martin.
I was like,
It's not that you can now select a
It's
role
science.
and it makes it longer
Okay,
to
it's
queue
science.
up. It's the game is dead.
it's just so interesting to see how these discussions always start, and it's never provided with like an article that says, okay, here are the numbers, league has lost 20 million players in a year or something, and then that sparks a discussion. You can be like, oh, okay, there's something to base it on. It's always
Always
just
a
like
guy.
it's always just
One
one
guy.
guy being like, I don't like League anymore. And then the top 5 comments are like,
agree.
"Yeah, it's definitely dying. You know, I mean, I don't understand. I feel like all my friends are playing Fortnite now. I'm like,
Ryan's
Jesus.
ruining it. It's all gone to hell. It's just you can't solo carry anymore.
It's just so
Yeah.
quickly.
Also, who is saying that? Like, who enjoyed the era where you got stomped by you're like bot lane and you're doing fine, you're winning your lane by 10 CS, and then like a 6-0 Aurelia comes, kills your entire team, and ends the game? When was that a great experience? That's my question.
That's the whole thing. Like, people don't see the good. It's like, for example, the queue times. Well, I'm queuing and I get my role, my preferred role every game. I get like once every 10th
I one-trick
game.
Varus.
I
couldn't do that before.
I play mid lane every game, which is like the most contested role. I just get it every time. That is beautiful. Or for example, the fact that support and jungle, they're useful roles. They're not like, take blue, take red, you're level 3, gank until you are useless. And the mid laner will take your raptors, your wolves, and your life, and your pants, you know? And supports, okay, they can buy things past Moby Boots and Sightstone. Fantastic. They're useful.
We actually,
impactful.
we actually talked about this, that there was the meta where you're like, Powerful Evil ran Smite Orianna, right, with Runeglaive, and he just took everything of you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when you were a jungler, I think also with Kikas was always like, dude, can I, you know, you start like bargaining for you. Can you leave me like raptors or like wolves? Like, and then there
And
was.
he's already taken. He's like, nah, man, I'm sorry.
And back in the day with Kikas, it was really contested. It's like, I'm gonna take this. And then Power's like, no, I will take this. And then you have like this in-house discussion who takes blue. And then after the game, you have to settle it.
I mean, I love that. I also love the point about support. Like when I played support in season 3.
You're a dog.
Yeah, my life, it's true. My life was like, laning phase was the only time it felt powerful because, you know, early levels, you can actually do stuff, Nami and stuff, Zyra, you can like win lane. And then the moment you get out of laning phase, you complete your Sightstone, and then all you do is save up money for an Oracle. You buy the Oracle, the enemy Ahri jumps over a wall and one-shots you like 2 seconds later. You go back and you buy another Oracle, and then you keep doing that for like 30 minutes, basically.
There was also the bank build where you go like Heart of
Oh yeah, of
Gold.
course, yeah, they had to
then,
go
like,
like Philosopher's Stone. And then they took out Heart of Gold.
Yes,
Yeah,
and then
fantastic.
they were just like, what? Support get items? Remove this.
That was legit the support role. And now, when playing support, like supports are strong right now. You can do a lot of stuff with them. You can actually carry games on a support. And then people can also complain about that. I'm like, how is that a bad thing that supports can build items, be impactful? And it's actually, I actually find support way more fun now to play than in the past when, I mean, okay, it was really easy to get carried as a support because I'm like, guys, I got the Oracle, protect me. I will kill these wards for us. And then like, look, guys, I'm part of the team. And then Bjergsen would like kill someone in the side lane. I'd be like, great, good job, everyone. Thank God I bought that Oracle. Yeah, I'm killing this ward over here. Just keep going, you know? But apart from that, playing support kind of sucks.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did we just confirm publicly that you were boosted into pro play?
Is that a secret? Or?
Yeah, it's crazy because I remember the worst timeline possible was legit. It was like the battle of mid lane. It was like Ocelot, Tabs, Peke, and Frogan. And it was like all the other players didn't matter.
No, it was
like,
irrelevant.
It was like Ahri versus Fizz mid. He took Raptors, he took Wolves, and then I'm playing top. I'm level 9. I look at Ahri, she's level 14. I'm like, Tabs, how is this? He's like, I'm even running XP quints. Oh, okay. I'm unimpactful. I'm useless. And that's the whole thing. I think one thing that I have never seen mentioned is that players are overall getting better too. Like if for some reason our minds were teleported back to season 2, we would dominate everything because we would like, yeah, you can actually gank top, you can dive top. It's like, holy moly, we can actually do these
You
things.
can dive a tower.
Yeah. I think those are things that are missed as well. People are getting better and are just abusing these simple points where you can transition. Oh, this guy's playing Aurelia top. He wants to 1v1
Right.
lane against the Jax. You know?
Here's the thing. This is an example of this. So, up until recently, I lived in silver.
But now he's
Now I'm gold, and I'm really proud of it. And yes, I used to be the top. And yes, I still suck, but screw you guys, I'm gold now, and I earned that shit. Kane every game. Let's go. Okay. But I got flamed by a silver mid laner for invading when he didn't have lane pressure.
Whoa.
He is silver mid laner. He's like, why did you invade? My lane was not pushed. I could not come. I was like, I played since season 2. No one has ever said it to me. I was like, plat low diamond, and people didn't say that to me in season 3. They're like,
dude, we watch LCS teams mess that up. That's actually insane.
people are getting better.
Pat
People are
yourself on the
smarter.
back for that because you guys are the ones educating people as well, right? I mean more Deficio than.
Whoa,
Because
he's gold.
But you're collect.
Every game I
whatever.
play, I educate people on why you should ban Kane, Sheepy. I am a teacher.
But I mean, also,
Can we repeat that he's gold?
just to turn the conversation to join the group of people saying, you know, they miss the early days of.
I mean, there are things
hard carrying,
like there's things I miss too.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely parts of it where I can understand where the sentiment comes from. It's just very interesting to see how these kind of topics can just snowball out of control so quickly. And it's the same with the whole, like, you know, league is dying kind of thing, where one statement and suddenly that's just how it is now, and everyone jumps on it. That kind of discussion back and forth, I think it's good to have. And I mean, a small part of me do miss watching a Zed in pro play walk around killing people left and right. But it's not just because Zed and the game changed. It's also, as Yamato highlighted, people figured out, wait, there are ways to counter these champions. Because back in the day, most of the time you just played comfort. You was like, I'm a good Ahri player, so I'm going to pick Ahri here. Like, we first picked Draven because Freeze was a Draven player. We didn't really think that much about, does Draven counter the enemy comp or not? And the same thing with, like, Zed. I remember people, like, blind picking champions that would get destroyed by Zed, and just like, okay, just log in Zed now. And it's the easiest game of his life. That has definitely changed. There's a lot more scouting, a lot more coaching, a lot smarter players. So you can actually
have
counter.
5 bans now, so I can ban Zed every game.
There's also that, but then there's like 10 million shielding items. There's Tom Kench. Like, there's just a lot of ways to, you know, prevent an assassin from taking over. It's not just that the assassins got nerfed or the game, you know, moved away just from that being, because in solo queue they're still viable.
Ari is back though.
Ari's
Oh.
that's strong.
Let's go. Yeah, that game we played the other night where your significant other carried my butt because she just crushed on Ahri. That was good times. I enjoyed being carried.
Good times. She's happy now. Ari one trick.
I think I did well in the bottle in that game as well, didn't I?
What did I play?
You
I was bank playing.
yeah,
Kenny.
you were losing hard, weren't you?
Oh yeah, against what was it?
Was it Trinity?
Ilaoi.
It was Ilaoi. It was Ilaoi.
Was it Ilaoi? No,
All right.
it wasn't.
No, you
It was Urgot. It was Urgot.
Urgot, yeah.
Champion was
Destroyed you, man.
Okay.
It was OP.
I do not understand Urgot at all.
I don't either. Thank God. Please never play him in pro play. I don't understand when he can trade, how he wins lane. I just know whenever you go in, he kills you. I don't know how. I don't get
Except
it.
for late game.
I was happy he just didn't know how to last it, you know. 0-3, I'm 20 CS ahead. Okay,
All right. We can take that.
cool.
All right.
Sheepy, you can join next time.
Yeah, we're going to get more games in. Games are the
He's
best.
gold now.
I hear the exciting stories of getting carried by Ahri. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And Lux. There was a lot of getting carried. I got carried a lot, to be fair.
Is that the new meta, Lux and Ahri?
No, I mean, it's...
Ari's definitely
I'm gold. I mean, you may have... It's definitely not competitive.
Every time came.
good. We're trying to get gold in flex
right.
queue.
I am gold in Flex Q.
Oh, I mean plat.
There you
Flex
go.
queue.
That one.
Okay, nice.
All right. Anyway, this has been a wonderful discussion about League. I do feel like we should continue talking about the events at hand. So thanks, guys, for talking about EU Masters. Next up...
Oh, I had one more point. Not about this.
Okay, fine. One more.
It's about we talk about scouting and Europe and Masters. I do want to just quickly chat about Korean imports.
All right.
Because I think this is a big topic in Europe. Going back 1 or 2 years, it was kind of the whole, you need Korean imports. You know, so many teams had 1 or 2 of them. Of course, Huni Rainover kind of started the whole thing. And I think we got spoiled a little bit about how good it can be to have 2 Koreans on Fnatic. And
we
we're like,
imported a lot of
oh,
people
okay,
in.
we should all do that because that's great. You know,
Chani, GBM,
a lot of different names. Now, interestingly enough,
Ruin.
this split, we only have 5 Korean players, spring split in the EU LCS. Ruin, of course, from Giants, Prophet and Blank from Rocket, Wadid from G2, and then Totoro from Unicorns of Love. So I'm going to turn to you first, Sheepy, because Unicorns of Love in the past, you guys were like, we don't want imports, it can ruin communication and stuff. What changed now?
I mean, I don't think that was Romar's point, because there's the thing where he's talking about how we're gonna beat Koreans if we're gonna import like people that are below in rank and we don't have the infrastructure to build them up.
Okay.
It's just a very unlikely scenario to pick players from their player base that are not in the LCK and then build them up with a worse infrastructure to become a better team when you have communication issues and so on. So what Romar's point was, that's just very unlikely, right? And that sentiment, like, I understand, makes logical sense. Changing for that is that the culture in Korea compared to Europe is just so different. Like you cannot understand, because we're joking around, we're having like a great jolly time, but there's so much competition for being in League of Legends, being in the LCS as well, and especially in Korea. Like it's really like what Totoro or what we've worked with people before as well, right? With Horo and with Move and with Veritas, who all come from from Korea, and they all said, you know, like after, for example, Totoro, I think left the school. I think it was about him, that it's kind of like, you wasted your education. Why are you doing esports? Unless you really make it, it's really like you're considered a loser. Like very, very crass.
Okay.
And so you really have to make it. You have to wake up every day early. You have to improve. You know, there's a strong bond with your family, and success overall in Korea. Like making career is like very big thing. Like people that have great jobs are extremely respected. So yeah. I just really like the culture. I really like the mindset, and Totoro just fit in perfectly because he also had like this unicorn spark where I don't know how much people see Totoro because he's very, you know, he's very shy and
reserved,
quiet.
yep.
But he's learning English in like an extremely fast rate, and now he speaks like talkative English with all of us. And now I think it's a way better fit for the team now that he speaks English, and because his mentality, he's the highest ranked right now from us. I think he was like rank 5 yesterday or something in solo queue. So he's working hard, he's communicating well, he has a really positive mindset and does well in League of Legends. So he just does everything that we wanted.
You picked him up because you felt like there weren't really good European options, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Otherwise, we would have, you know, checked first in Europe, but there was nobody where we thought, you know, he could bring something in you, because we had different options, and our scouting, I think, is one of the best in Europe. I mean, just from how we always turned rookies into our like people that people didn't consider good, into like great players, and I think as well with them. And also, even though we ended like 10th place in this split, I don't think it really represents how
it was a tight split.
I mean, there was, you know, the G2 we were ahead, and against Vitality, you know, we had.
I think every team had games like that where they're like,
Like it was so close in general.
Yeah, I think generally the LCS right now was really, really close. You know, like 10th place team could easily be like in 4th place or something like this. You know, like there was a lot of going on, which is really interesting, I think, for the viewer as well, because that was why you guys could have a great season.
I think the main thing when it comes to Koreans is when I think about it, I don't care if a person is from Korea, Nicaragua, or whatever. I look at a player for what it is. And the things that are common with Koreans is that communication problems. There are European players that have communication problems. So I don't care about nationality, right? There are European players with great mentalities. There are Korean players with bad mentalities. That's something that I've witnessed. That's something that I've seen. So it's not something that's like you take for sure. There are also Koreans that have good communication skills, like in the case of Fnatic, where Huni was someone that went through SKT tryouts, and he was one of the ones that was perceived as a player that SKT wanted to pick up at the time, and Rainover was someone that spoke good English, so it was very good scouting from Fnatic. And of course that was like, oh wow, Koreans are so good. But in all honesty, you need to just look at it subjectively. Are you willing to bring in a player that you need to judge them? You can't assume they have a great mentality. In Korean solo queue, it tends to be more competitive, but at the same time, it's a double-edged sword, right? People surrender early, and there are things like that. But I think the way you have to view it is, are you willing to make this sacrifice, or there are communication issues for mentality things? And from my point of view, I think that these are two things that can be taught, but I don't speak Korean. So for me, it's much easier to work on someone's mentality than it is to work on someone's English through Korean. I had the opportunity to work with Horo, and he was in SKT, and he told me things that Koma did, and that taught me a lot of things. And he was a person that didn't speak a word of English when he came to the house, but he was using a translator, and he was very committed to the idea. And this, you know, I can't assume that every Korean player is going to work like this, because it was an absolute pleasure to work with Horo. But I think the tendency is that the Korean players lean towards that because of culture, as you mentioned. But I think there are some scenarios where it's worse, some scenarios where it's better. And I think the bottom line is you have to look at traits and attributes of players, because there are European players that don't know how to speak in game too. And that's not a language barrier. That is just a barrier that that the outcome is that they don't speak. And that's also an issue, right, that you have to solve. So in the end, it's just about looking at players as if they're Pokemon cards or something, and you just value attributes, you value risk, and you just make that assumption. I don't care what country they are from, because that to me is irrelevant. At the end of the day, it's just about valuing attributes and weighing them against each other.
I think it's interesting to hear how that mindset is developed, because I feel like there definitely was that period of time, I think we all witnessed it, where it was just like, import Koreans.
Yep.
Like, are they good? Is someone vouching for them that they're going to be good players? They're destroying us at every international event as a region. Like, clearly they're just better, right? And I think
we had some lazy scouting.
We had some. So I don't know who the guy is that was like recommending a lot of these players, but we had some. I mean, we had some bad imports, right? Like, we had some real bad imports.
Definitely. But it's just interesting because we now stepped away from it as a region with only 5 players left. And if you look at the 6 teams who made playoffs, G2 had Wadid, who is a bit of an odd case because he speaks fluent English. He did from the get-go, and he never actually like got to play in the LCK. So while he is a Korean import for sure, it just he never had the communication issues that some of the other ones had that you could look at as a trade-off. And then of course Rocket with Blank and Profit. Every other team just stuck to full European lineups. It's been very successful for a lot of them, like Splice, Vitality, Fnatic, just based on this specific split. So it's interesting to see if it made our region stronger. The team said, okay, we don't have to import if we don't 100% need it. Is it because we have more players to pick from? You know, the more years go by, we just get a bigger talent pool, like with the Vitality players.
I think there's 2 big factors. I think in support of the idea of culture in Korea is that the structures are built upon this. And the structures have been around for a very long time in Korea. So SK Telecom, KT, they've been around for ages, right? And the structure has been built on top of this culture. So of course, the organizations know how to push a player's mentality in the right direction. If you're an SKT, then you know shit is real. Like you wake up and you're like, I need to get good, otherwise I'm flying out the door, right? And that is a mentality that has been like, in terms of speaking for the mentality, that is something that, you know, as Europe gets better and organizations get better, the coaches get better, then you can learn to create this mentality within your team. You don't necessarily need a culture to build on. You just need to make sure that this is what is necessary. You need to learn, because this is something that I've noticed and something that I am constantly reading about, learning about. You can take from other sports, other ideas, because, you know, this is not something that just happens in Korea, right? There's Western sports where everything is happening. Managers are creating winning mentalities, and this is something that everyone is capable of. So I don't think the bottom line is culture. I think it's the question of an organization. And then my second point would be the player pool. The player pool in Europe is very large. I think it might be larger than Korea. So it just makes sense if let's say 0.0001% of the player base in a region is good, then it makes sense that the teams or the regions with bigger player pools are going to be eventually better if all the other issues are ironed out. So let's say maybe in 20 years, China is going to be by far the best region because they have the biggest player pool. And I think it speaks to that as well, because they have mechanical players that are insanely good, but you hear about the drama in China all the time, how they're controlling the teams, etc. And I think that is what is holding them back in the end. So I think player is a good thing for Europe, and also in the end, structures are also improving.
Is there anything else you want to add, Sheepy? Round out discussion on the value of Korean imports, importing players in general, and kind of the growth of Europe?
I think everything has been said, you know, so I think we can move on.
Our final topic of the day is MSI. Bit of a focus here on Fnatic as the European representatives with the all-European cast. So let's talk a little bit about Fnatic's chances here at MSI. We already know 4 teams going to be at the top. We don't know the teams coming from plans, but Fnatic, Kingzone Dragon X, Royal Never Give Up, and Team Liquid are all going to be playing to see who comes out on top. So from the Fnatic perspective, how good do we expect this team to be, let's say, compared to when they were playing at Worlds?
I'm excited because the Worlds, you know, I was reviewing every single game, and I regret it to this day that I did because it was too exhausting. I think I still suffer damage in my throat for it. But the main thing is, and my main criticism for how they played was that they just refused to play through mid. The only thing that they did ever in the game was, oh, first clear, Rockstar maybe ganked top, but then he never went there again. And then he lane ganked all the time through bottom, and then teams figured it out, and it was just weak. The early game was very weak. And now, finally, after they crushed us in the semis, they've shown that they know how to play through mid lane. And I think Caps is an amazing mechanical player. Maybe he's a bit too wild sometimes because he gets ganked, but I think the main thing is, as long as they have figured out how to play together, utilize Hillesang to pressure into mid as well, and use Soaz, his identity of pressuring as well on the map, not necessarily into the lane. I think with this new idea for Fnatic, I think they are much better if I compare them to what they used to be when they played at the World Championship.
Mm-hmm. Sheepy, how do you feel about Fnatic right now? Are you as optimistic as Mr. YamatoCannon here?
I mean, they've definitely become better. I don't think he said like they're gonna win the tournament or anything like this.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
Yeah, he's just like, you know, they are better than at Worlds like long time ago, which I agree with, and I think everything he pointed out is what we think of Fnatic, you know.
Then let's talk about the other thing that Yamato brought up, which is the kind of the skill of Caps. You know, is this wild player sometimes. How good is Caps really? How much better has Caps gotten? Because he's kind of the guy that I think we're always going to be looking at. It was him and Reckless that we were always talking about. I mean, those were the two guys up for MVP of the split for sure. How's he going to do up on the international stage? What does his progression look like?
I think it's difficult to say because there's a lot of responsibility resting on their shoulders. And I don't know how it works in like a team environment. Like generally, Fnatic as a team for me feels a little bit bumpy because there are so many different personalities with like different ideas. Like I know Hilly, you know, then Reckless and Source are also like they're kind of their own. Same for Caps, who's like crazy wild. Source is probably, you know, people, you know, it's just Source. And then you have Broxter, who's like super nice guy and trying to help everybody out. I don't know exactly how he fits into the entire mold. Then you have Dylan and Youngbuck behind it as well, who I think also have like Youngbuck different experiences to Dylan. Mm-hmm. And although I just have like the kind of feeling from all of the people, I don't know how well they are meshing together. And now in terms of how you're performing, I think that the stigma of Fnatic is that, you know, Reckless kind of overcarries everything and wins the game through it.
But is that true without Caps?
That's really the question here, right? Like it's so hard to say because Reckless had such a grand performance, right? And if he's performing well, the entire team is doing well as well, right? And same for Caps, you know, if he's performing well, but he's going to face up against like the best mid laners in the world, right?
I mean, I think when we look historically, I think there's a lot of truth to what you said because I mean, Reckless brought up how difficult the team was in terms of like emotional and personalities interacting at last Worlds. But I mean,
yes.
Since then we've heard, I think, nothing but positive things. Youngbuck especially being praised repeatedly for kind of improving what was perceived and apparently perceived correctly, according to Reckless, as like a super negative, super emotional team atmosphere. I mean, we've heard consistently good things, that the players are no longer mad at each other and frustrated with each other, that they have kind of a system in place where it's much, much healthier.
But I want to hear more about Caps, because the question was, how good is Caps now?
I think Caps, the story of Caps, there was once, like when he started playing, I said he's the best mid lane in Europe. And people were like, well, you're ridiculous. Because the reason I thought so was because the way he plays is that he's always pushing boundaries. Usually when you have players like Perks and maybe Nuktak, they're playing more tempered. They've reached their peak and they know where their peak is. And Caps, we don't know where his peak is at yet because he's playing in such a way where he's willing to take those risks that the more tempered players aren't willing to take. And I think in the matchup against Perks, against G2, I think he showed up big time. Mm-hmm. When he had the better matchup, the team with the Karma mid lane just lost to 2v2 post 6 naturally, right? But whenever he had the stronger matchup, he could really abuse it. I think mechanically he's super talented. And the main thing is, I think he's finally playing smarter than before. I think he's playing on the side lane. He's willing to expand his horizons beyond just being the one that clears mid lane. And I think that frees up a lot of space for Reckless to play other champions.
And I really think the whole playing smarter is the big thing, because I remember last year when Caps joined Fnatic and obviously preparing for the split, I had to learn about this player. He'd been in Turkey for one split and that was effectively it. And it's very rare when you talk about a new player coming into the LCS that you hear the same thing from like every single player you talk to, no matter which team he's on. And it was just, this guy is mechanically so insane. Like he can win any lane matchup. He can carry games so hard. And it really like instantly made me super excited because when I hear so many players praise that one aspect, I just think back to some of the few really great players who just stood above the rest in terms of that aspect of the game, like the pure mechanics and the carry potential. So obviously watching him in the first split, we had, I think one of his first games, we had the outplays against Perks and these kind of things, and it was like, oh my god, this is so hype. But obviously because the team didn't function very well and because Caps was not a smart player at all in terms of what he needed to do as a mid laner, he just got cammed and he just died to everything. He didn't know what to do in the side lane. Like, there was just a lot of times where he ended up looking a lot worse because it's a team game, obviously. But I feel like that 1 year where he still managed to go to Worlds, he still managed to play 2 playoffs in the EU LCS. And now with the changes Fnatic have made to the coaching staff, we're just seeing that more structured team, and he's a much smarter player after 1 year in the LCS. And he still has the same mechanics, which are really, really good on his side. And that's why Fnatic now have been able to rely consistently on him. And then, of course, Reckless.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing about this Fnatic team. And I would say one of my concerns now, I know you guys were praising Fnatic coming into this, but I am concerned that it's too much about late game with Caps and Reckless. They fell behind in the finals against like G2. We've seen them fall behind in the EU LCS, but they come back because they stall well and then they punish you around like a Nashor. They take a big fight. Reckless gets a pentakill, and it's like, okay, Fnatic for sure now wins this game. I think the teams you're going to see at MSI will be way better at snowballing an advantage than we see from G2 Esports in the final we had. And generally also just team fight a lot better in the late game. Like RNG with Uzi and Zhao Hu can 100% match Fnatic's late game. 100%.
Of course. And I think the main question is, when it comes to Fnatic, what mentality did they have coming into the match against G2? Because if I view that matchup, it's like, if we reach a point where AD Carry has 3 items.
Yep, you win.
And you win. You automatically win. Yep. You saw this from the game 1. Karma mid lane. It's like, what the hell was going on? Karma, Braum, full scaling, losing every matchup, but doesn't matter because they will reach a point where they will just outscale the enemy. And G2 were ahead. They didn't execute. They played horribly with 6k gold lead. They were forcing Nashers with Ryze, Gangplank, and I wanted to grab the microphone and throw it into something. But of course, I think it's a question of mentality because Fnatic, for example, when they played against us, they were contesting us very hard in the early game. And I consider us as the team that played the best early game in this split. And they contested us really, really hard and they beat us at it. So I think it's a question of mentality. And I think coming into a tournament with these teams, if they don't have what you're saying and they think that they can go late game against RNG, then, they can just...
King Zone, that's going to be a problem as well.
Good luck in esports.
The question is, is it like their only strategy that they're going to feel comfortable with, or is it their strongest strategy that they have to use every game, or is there more flexibility there? And I think you're right, Yamato, that they did show more in your series, and that kind of gives me confidence. Because I think if you look at it, right, like, it's not the most exciting way for Fnatic to win a final, right? Going late game every single game from a viewer perspective. But if they really believe that was their best strategy against
G2...
yeah.
And that, it was, right?
Yeah.
They're still deciding who's playing for top lane, right? Vipo or
I think
Source.
so, yeah. It's not locked in.
Which is kind of concerning as well, right? Because you're playing against really, really, really good top laners. Some being also a little bit more confident.
Sending Europe's best top laner.
Exactly. And now we have 2 of them, so... We have to decide now, like who's going. So
you get number 1 and number 2, though. So
exactly, the difference is a little small. So
I have a question though. Which patch are they playing on? Is it Conqueror or non-Conqueror?
Definitely
it's Conqueror.
Yeah,
it's for sure. It's 80,
okay, that makes a huge difference too.
Because top lane will be carry oriented more.
Yeah. Holy moly!
Do you think we'll see that? Do you think we'll see more carry oriented tops? Because I mean, if that's the case, then we've got Khan.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like Khan was also like, I'm gonna crush these fools, And
it's so funny
I think
because like historically, like we've always like the mid lane has always been the thing, and it's been mid lane difference. And it's almost, I can't really think of too many times at top or at Worlds or international tournaments where it's like the top lane was the kind of lane where if you were way better than your opponent, you could solo carry.
But I think that 2 years ago there was kind of the case where it was like Fiora, Darius, top lane, and if Fiora went through laning phase, she was just like assassinating your backline and like solo carrying fights.
But we had Conqueror at EU Masters.
We did.
And we didn't just see...
We saw a lot of tanks.
Carry top lanes. There were still a lot of tanks being played, like Cho'Gath, Ornn, Maokai, Sion, of course, was played a ton at EU Masters. Like, I'm not locked 100% that the meta is gonna be just carry top.
I mean, there's still like tanks that are just doing well. Like Sion has been like everybody's picking Sion because
Ornn
it's just
is like almost
Ornn
always
as well,
there, you know.
right? Shogath too, but still, like those champions, if you're mechanically gifted, you can just get so much out of them because they do so much, right? You can push side lanes, you can assassinate back, even team fights, you know, champions like a Camille, if you're coming from a flank position and you're just pressuring the backline without them being able to commit, like it's really hard to play. So yeah, they just have such a big upside, and as well, like if you start snowballing, it's so hard to shut down.
I think it's a question of, is it 8.8 they're playing on?
It's the current live patches.
Irelia is in the picture as well.
Yeah.
I think it might be, I think usually top lane meta is centered around one champion. So for example, Sion dictates everything. But when Sion is out, then it also changes everything. Because it's like Sion, we pick Ornn into Sion, tank v tank, blah, blah, blah. And Sion beats all these Conqueror champions by far. And when that champion is out of the picture, all of a sudden the landscape changes completely. And maybe then Irelia is going to be the champion that is viable. And then all of a sudden we might be seeing a different meta. And I think the main reason I brought up Conqueror is that it's a cause for speculation.
Yeah.
They might figure something out that we don't think about right now. Maybe the European master teams simplify, because usually when teams are worse, like we saw in regular split for us in ELCS, people just play the teamfight compositions, because that's just the easy way to execute. You're split pushing with a Fiora and a Darius and Irelia. That is pretty tricky to do. It creates this pressure that doesn't need to be there if you just play the teamfight composition. And we're seeing a tournament at the highest level, like Khan is going to bust that champion out if it's going to be good.
True. Yeah, I mean that's why, again, it's like I really struggle to predict how Fnatic will do at this tournament, just because I feel like the main strength of Fnatic was that late game. In the EU LCS, it was just the safest way. I think Dylan Falco in an interview also said, like, in a best of one scenario, this is just the safest way to play the game. You mentioned now the teamfight comps. I feel like the teams they're going to play against, especially Kingzone and RNG, can more than match them when it comes to that late game. You don't have that duo carry advantage when it's Prey BDD and Uzi Xiaohu on those two other teams.
And I think that's really interesting, because if you're looking at Europe at the competition, like Fnatic is one of the teams where every player is like really standout player, right? Soares with a really good TP is always being able to escape. Really solid laning phase, can also win. Like when he plays Ornn with Ignite, he just gets solo kills as well. Then you have Caps, you know, super mechanically gifted. Reckless is doing fantastic in laning phase, but more so like later on his positioning in team fights is just so good, and he's on the same page as the rest. Boxer just holds everything together. So if you look at like a team like G2 or anybody else in Europe, where there's always like a weakness or something that just doesn't hold up, and then they just fall apart, especially like team fighting with Reckless. Just the way that you can't catch him, but he's dishing out so much damage, is just really, really hard to deal with. But I think in the like carry wise to match them, I really think that Fnatic will start struggling, because they need to look towards the other players to outweigh the enemy in like other positions than just mid lane and ADC.
I think the main thing is when you reach a point where you play, when you play these international tournaments, then you can't rely on these cheeky things like we are late game team. No, you have to be good at everything. You have to be good at every part of the game, otherwise you get demolished. And that's what the competition that they're facing. Kingzone is good at freaking everything. And that's why they are considered the best team in the world. And I think Fnatic, I think this is the most well-rounded they've been since Huni and Reignover. And I think that is what is supporting my idea of Fnatic doing well in this tournament. I think they don't have a standout issue, as you mentioned. And I think when it comes to their cheeky things like, late game, whatever, or Reckless standing out, that doesn't matter jack shit in this tournament. He's facing Prey, Uzi, and who else? Doublelift. Like this difference is going to be it's going to be insane to watch these players play against each other. But the difference is not going to be like Reckless 1v9ing. Might happen a game, maybe a two.
For sure. And there's obviously going to be two teams.
Can't rely on it.
No, because there's going to be two teams coming from play-ins. I think personally, when we look at the 6 teams who will then make it to the main group stage, I think this is the easiest time for the 4 major teams, like 4 major regions, so the NA team, the Chinese team, the Korean team, and the European team, to make top 4. Last year, there was a lot of stuff that could happen because Flash Rolls were in there with, Kaza, Mabel, these guys. Gigabyte Marines were really surprising us and doing well. Gigabyte Marines, they're gone. Like, they're not going to be a thing here. And Flash Rolls, while they still have some of the old names, they were already trending downwards. If you look at the last 1.5 years, Kaza is no longer there, as one of the big standouts if you look at this team over the last 3 years. So I look at the playing teams and that pool as a lot weaker than it's been in the past. So I think if you are one of the 4 major regions, like, you have to be able to make top 4 and go to playoffs. It is such a disappointment with the pool we have now if you do not manage to lock that in. I know also the teams already, Team Liquid, I think, is already in Europe, practicing, getting used to the jet lag, the environment, everything. So there really will be no excuse to not make top 4.
So now we're at the point where I think we just got to lay it out and put some predictions on the table. So today I want everybody's top 4 for who is going to make it out of groups. Now I know that we do not have the 2 teams that are coming in from some of the emerging regions and from the people who are playing in the play-in, but I asked everybody ahead of time. Everyone said they were okay with that. But before we do predictions, let me lay out some stakes. So for those of you listening at home, we're going to be doing a sumo battle gauntlet tournament for this bet. This one's a little weird. I'm gonna be honest, we made this up over the course of the day. But basically, if you've ever seen those sumo suits that people will like wrestle in, there's like team building exercises for corporate events, maybe sporting events, wherever they. So basically, it's just a giant fat suit, and you run at each other and you try to push each other out of a ring. And so how this is going to work is the person with the most correct predictions will be number 1 at the top of our sumo tournament, or on top of our LCK style gauntlet of sumo tournament, and we will go down through there. We will record this, whether we use full cameras and make it into a feature, I don't know. It might just be phone videos from all of our various social medias, but everybody will predict. The person in 4th place has to try to battle through all 3 other people.
All 3 to see if we can win the whole
to
thing.
make it to the top of the
It's like
sumo
extra
gauntlet winner.
weight suit.
And what we're predicting is basically who's going to be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, based on just the group stages of
Just
the main
on the group
event.
stages. Yes. Now, we'll also make a trophy because this is the most ridiculous bet we've ever had. So, personally, we'll figure it out. We're going to make a trophy.
Yourself.
We'll make it ourselves. It'll be the
But then I want to lose because I want to play for the trophy.
No, but you're going to win it no matter what.
First place because it's an LCK style gauntlet.
Yeah, you're only going to have to win one match then. If you're the best
you
at
are the
predicting.
EUphoria MSI sumo champion.
So the person is Kingzone.
Basically, yeah. You go straight to the final. I have to face someone who's been battling through the rest.
I think warming up in a fat suit is clutch.
Yamato, you can start then.
All right,
Give us your 1 to 4.
your top 4.
All right, 1 to 4. I think this is only groups.
Only groups.
Because I think the strength is different. I think Kingzone is going to be 1st place. Ooh,
surprise.
Because things, everyone knows.
All right, Kingzone.
2nd place, I think Fnatic. Not because I think they're the 2nd best team at the tournament. It's because RNG, I think they're going to drop best of 1s. I have looked time and time again at some of their matches, and their drafts are just, there's no other, sometimes they're just plain oink. They're just, it just blows my mind. The game they lost against EDG was like, they have Kog'Maw, Rakan against Caitlyn. Why are you even playing the game? Just go next. And the same thing was happening last year. When RNG played EDG in the finals. The drafts were just, what is going on? And sometimes I think that costs them games. But I think in best of 5 scenarios, I think they can adapt, and I think they're going to be the 2nd strongest team in the tournament during the course of that. But during best of 1s, I think they're going to fall to 4th place, and I think Liquid is going to be 3rd. I think.
Okay. That's spicy. I like that. Who wants to go next? You want to go, Sheepy?
I will take it. So I think Kingzone as well. That's the number 1. I think they're just
Why do
too
you steal
solid.
my shit, man?
Number 2 Fnatic because no, I'm just kidding. I think number 2 is RNG. I have a little bit more faith, even though that internationally, China always had like those hiccups, like so many times. LPL, even in Worlds, it's just like
sandbagging. I think we call it
sandbagging. Okay, styling on people. But that's not, I hope that they learn from it. I think that overall, because they have such star players and veterans as well, I think they should be more accustomed to it as well. I think it's the time where, LPL should know, they should try, and the group phase, especially after I tweet to them and tell them that it's like
It's important
It's
for the
important
sumo
at this
bet.
point. Exactly.
Didn't this meme die with last year's Worlds though? Like with World Elite and RNG performance, EDG is always like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no one knows.
EDG is the meme, you know.
Yeah, the meme is mostly for EDG.
Yeah.
I hope the trend is upwards.
All right, you got
the trend
RNG
is
second.
definitely
You got
RNG.
RNG second. Any EU
Then obviously Fnatic because European pride.
Sure.
And
Puts him in third. Got it. That's how far pride gets him. Got it.
But that's all the pride I can give. And then number 4 Team Liquid. I think Fnatic is probably at their second strongest after with the Hunians.
Okay.
All right, I got to go next because Martin, we're running out of potential combinations. I'm going to take the last one that doesn't involve. So I'm going to take Kingzone first.
Oh,
Because I'm not insane. I'm going to put. Oh no, God! How do you do this?
Come on, Gold Cane.
This is my.
give me that Team
This is
Liquid.
how my mind works.
North American.
I'm playing like I
trader.
play Kane. I'm farming for 8 minutes, and then I'm getting my transformation. I'm the king of killing raptors. All right, Kingzone, take it, and then I'm gonna say easily. I'm gonna say Fnatic.
I'm biased.
Easily.
Wow.
Easy second. RNG are gonna get third, and Team Liquid is gonna get fourth. And now my logic is, NA is not greater than EU. EU greater than NA. Jesus, almost. But I do think that Fnatic will outperform RNG overall. I think they'll be more consistent, and I think that if anyone's gonna drop games to the play-ins teams, it will be RNG. That said, nobody disappoints at an international event like North America, so they will definitely be fourth.
All right. I'm going RNG first. Listen, it's a mess. It's all over the place. Like one game in the LPL, like it looks awesome. It's fantastic. The next game, I have no clue what's happening, but that has been the trend for years.
You want the sumo?
These guys with Uzi Zhao, they will show up. Also, I like the fact that I'm not sure if it's confirmed yet who they're bringing as a sub, but at least the Leaguepedia says it's the 2 top laners they're bringing. So there could be some spicy stuff happening up there as well. And I think so. RNG gets first. It's best of 1. Yes, they might oink certain drafts, but I put my faith in them not doing it here. Second, I'm going to put Kingzone. Third, I'm going to put Team Liquid. And fourth, I'm going to put Fnatic.
Did you just put Europe at number 4?
I know, disgusting.
Do you hate Europe?
Yes.
I'm sorry, can you understand this is called the Euphoria podcast? Do you understand the E and the U are sometimes capitalized? Do you know why?
I just need to see how Fnatic wants to approach this tournament in terms of playstyle. Do they want to go all in for early game? Is it like, camp for caps 24/7 or something? Or is it still going to be late game focused? Because if it is pure late game, I think most of the other teams will match them on that one. So I'm putting them fourth. Also because then I think we have Fnatic on 3 different positions, which is cool. And technically, none of us can lose because we all get to wrestle in sumo suits.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the one who starts early has more experience by the end of the tournament.
He's warmed up.
So he's more likely to win.
By the way, like most of our bets, we have not planned any of this logistically ahead of time. We're just like, we're going to do this thing.
We can make it happen.
So we're going to figure that out. We'll keep you guys updated on the sumo bet to follow. But one more time, I'm just going to go through everybody's predictions. And correct me if I'm wrong as we go through. So we'll start with Yamato. Kingzone first.
No.
I've decided it has to be Fnatic. Kingzone first, Fnatic second, Team Liquid third, fourth RNG. He did clarify that he does think that RNG will be the second best team at the tournament.
we don't care about that stuff.
I'm gonna give him a little credit. He took the
Supermassive
time.
fifth.
There you go. Sheepy, Kingzone, RNG, Fnatic, Team Liquid, representing me. Kingzone, Fnatic, because I love Europe, unlike some people.
Very good.
RNG in third place, Team Liquid in fourth. Deficio, RNG, Kingzone, Team Liquid, and in a staggering turn of events that literally no one expected, Fnatic fourth. I mean, why just not say it's going to be whatever play-in team comes in? Fnatic won't even make top 6.
There we go, man.
Part of me believes in the RNG thing, though.
I mean, I just feel like, especially Uzi on the international stage, and now he finally won his trophy as well. Did you see how happy he was lifting that trophy? He didn't even know how to grab the trophy at first because no experience. But in the end, I think RNG can actually do well. But it's just a wild card in some ways. Team Liquid.
Do you actually think that Team Liquid, if they would play a best of 5 against Fnatic, would win? Like, is Team Liquid the better team than Fnatic?
Ooh, now you're putting me on the
Oh,
spot.
one more, yes.
Or do you not stand behind?
Final question to end the day. Yes, is Team Liquid
Man,
better
that
than
is
Fnatic in
hard.
the best of 5?
I think Team Liquid they look good coming into the tournament, but I have too many questions also regarding a lot of their players who's on the international stage in the past have just looked fine and not like fantastic. So I think Team Liquid have good macro, they have good preparation. Will they beat Fnatic in the best of 5? I plead the 5th. I do not want to answer.
I don't plead the 5th. They're gonna get smashed. What the hell?
They're not gonna get smashed. That's gonna be it. I say 5 games.
Have you seen Caps? Have you seen Pobelter?
Their difference is in favor of Caps, but not by that much.
Pobelter played well.
Xmithy, man. Have you seen Xmithy?
That's true. I have. I've seen Broxa too. Now I love Broxa. He has been getting better, but Xmithy is definitely a house for sure.
He's a house. That's it. He's a house.
He's a brick house.
He's a brick house.
It goes to 5 games,
Hey,
I would say.
do you have 2 minutes? I have one Twitter question I really want to ask.
One Twitter question. We did ask Twitter questions. Sorry, we haven't gotten more in. It's been a very.
I mean, we kind of had some of it in the answers
we mixed
earlier.
it in, but give me one more.
So this is a question from a guy called Daniel.
Damn, Daniel.
Yeah, at Daniel NATSYM. He asks, imagine you are coaching a team consisting of 1 diamond player, 1 plat, 1 gold, 1 silver, and 1 bronze. And you're going up against a full gold lineup. On what position would you put which player? So it's important here to think. Let's just say they can all play.
You're playing against 5 gold players. One of them could or could not be a Kane one trick. You don't know. And then you get to
They can all play everything and every role equally the same. So 1 diamond player, 1 plat, 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze. Where do you position them on the map?
This was kind of on Reddit too, for those who are wondering. This was a big...
I put the Bronzy on Maokai Duri.
So he's top lane.
He's just sending him top. He's an island. He might be behind. He will be for sure. So
what do you tell him when you give him out? You say just don't die.
Good luck. Just die as little as possible, and good luck in esports.
Okay.
And then I put my diamond player in the mid lane.
Okay.
Because if we have mid prio, we can impact everything. We can even save the Bronzy up top. No problem. And I put the platinum together in the jungle, so he can play together with the mid laner.
The synergy.
He can diamond player can tell him like, yeah, just come mid. He's like, oh, I understand this. Yeah, prio, pressure.
Not that dumb, I'm sure.
Yeah. So it's so like if the diamond player elaborates on something, he can understand. That's the connection I see there. And then in the bot lane we have the gold and silver. They are close knit together, so they've experienced the same type of bullshit, and they're facing a gold. So I think they'll be fine. It will be pretty even. And with the mid prio, we can transition that and eventually carry.
What kind of dual lane do you pick?
Dual lane. I would pick something that I would go the Fnatic route. I would either go Zyra Khan, probably too complicated for gold and silver, but I would probably do like Braum Ezreal, Braum Tristana, something like that. Just scales, Braum Kate. Just Braum. Braum is the one.
Braum is in there. Okay, Sheepy.
Sounds good. I would have literally said the same because I think it goes all over mid lane prio.
What if I force you to change? You cannot do that. Your diamond player cannot play mid.
Here's better. Okay. Better. You now have to play against Yamato's team.
Yamato's team.
Who has assigned a bronze player top lane, a platinum jungler, a diamond mid laner, and a gold and silver bottom. You have the same options.
He's going to send the diamond
I send the diamond into the
So you have a diamond top laner.
He's playing Aurelia.
Let's just make his life super miserable in top lane. Probably diamond in jungle.
Oh, diamond in the jungle.
Yeah.
Is this against the gold team or Yamato's team?
Both.
Okay.
Because I think mid lane is important, but if I put the diamond in jungle and then I just, he makes like some great, interesting invades, then he can just shut down the enemy because he's stronger and better.
You're expecting a lot from diamond jungle.
Yes. Well, compared to your platinum.
To gold. He's compared to gold, right?
Okay, platinum, I think, in this case.
Next position.
So then he would just snowball everywhere. Then top lane probably the silver, because if his top lane is bronze and mine is silver, therefore I can get it. Even though it's like a silver, I can get so much.
He's gonna pick Darius, try to all-in a Maokai under tower and die, right?
I hope not. I ban Maokai, Cyan, and like anything tank Ornn or something.
Okay, so we have diamond jungler, we have silver top laner,
yes,
mid laner,
gold.
You put your gold one in mid against the diamond mid laner.
I mean,
there's no right
What else
choice.
is that? Platinum?
The platinum.
I put the platinum in, and then bot lane is like gold, and the support is bronze.
He plays Janet.
And then he
pushes W and he pushes E.
And I look at him and I'm like, just put the shield on the AD carry.
See the creeps? You stand behind them.
Yes.
And you shield that guy.
So the interesting thing about that question also is like, the bronze player is always the kind of the big, where do you put this person? Interestingly enough, though, like I know a lot of bronze players. You know, a lot of the
I've
How
seen
do you know
solo
that?
queue
Yeah,
history.
yeah.
I know exactly
Really good
why.
Yasuo.
there are a lot of good Yasus. A lot of like the people behind the camera in our production teams,
that's
they
true.
tend to play down in bronze. And interestingly enough, mechanically, most of them are actually fine.
No, I don't remember.
The problem is the decision making in game. So on a team like this, as long as you put them with someone who can tell them what to do and what not to do in the game, they might actually be okay. Especially like the Maokai up top lane should
Or the
be
Janna
okay.
bronze bot lane.
Fair also for support.
Because
It
there's
makes
not much
sense.
decisions you can do with Janna.
You can trade really effectively, or you can not trade
Not
effectively.
when you're bronze.
Not if you're bronze. Okay, okay. So that's interesting. I'm glad we got that.
So there you go, Daniel. Thank you for the question. I don't know why it was hard for me to remember. That's my name too. But yeah, thank you for the question. We'll get more questions in the future. And of course, thank you guys for coming onto the podcast, talking. I look forward to our sumo tournament. It is now currently in the works. We have asked about the fat suits. We will get them
I'm
together.
gonna work out for that, man.
I know.
I don't think
I'm-
you're supposed to. You have-
getting-
how much does your actual body strength matter when you have that suit on?
Yeah, the question is, if you're working out for sumo tournament, are you getting fatter or are you getting...
No, because you're putting on the fat suit. So I don't know.
I think it's in the legs, no? I'm gonna do a little squats.
I think it's the legs. My legs are good, man.
Just get like 200 pounds
I
or
have
something.
thighs
roll
like
over.
Chun-Li, dude. I'm a crush.
I'm actually sad towards the end here as well. I had another great question I wanted to ask.
No.
But I will not do it.
Stop. We're
The
already way
only
over
thing,
time.
the only thing in the question that was so funny was that it was specifically directed at YamatoCannon,
What's up?
and it was just don't answer it because we actually done. It literally went like
How
this.
is working around you?
It literally went like this. It went like, ask YamatoCannon, and only YamatoCannon, not Sheepy, why and how he is so handsome. So I take that as the person considers Sheepy not as handsome or handsome at all.
I'm in a different league.
or you're way more handsome.
They asked you specifically not to answer
They
those.
did not
You're
want
gonna
your
have to keep
answer.
it- Okay,
It was only Yamato's answer.
Eat your veggies, go to school,
there you go. This
go to
is-
sleep early.
There you go. This has been EUphoria podcast. It's episode 12. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you guys next week. We will have another episode. Sorry for the inconsistency.
No, we had a break. Was that inconsistency?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really tell people how long we were going to
We
go.
had one tweet.
All right, we're done. We're done. We're done.